This is Angela Staines, Tonica's sister in Star Wars, and you're listening to the Cantina Chatter Podcast.
Hello, and welcome to the 21st episode of the Cantina Chatter Podcast. This is an episode for you, the listeners. Cantina Chatter began as an extension of the Victoria's Cantina YouTube channel as a way to have more in-depth conversations with fellow collectors about the toy lines that we all love. But it wasn't long before it grew into something more. Cantina Chatter has held conversations with people involved with the Star Wars films, musicians, authors, entrepreneurs, toy designers, and more. It has always been a free show that is completely self-funded. There are no commercials or advertisements inserted into these episodes. Cantina Chatter is truly a labor of love, and one that I hope can keep going for a long time to come. If you'd like to support the podcast, one of the best and most simple things you can do is leave a 5-star review on iTunes or a positive review through whatever means you are using to stream or download the podcast. Believe it or not, but this really does help to improve the rankings and visibility of the show. So if you enjoy the podcast, please be sure to let others know by leaving reviews. Thank you for continuing to support Cantina Chatter. And now, on with the show. The Victoria's Cantina YouTube channel recently surpassed 10,000 subscribers.
10,000? I almost buy our own ship for that.
It took nearly 5 years for this to happen, with little to no promotion outside of our own hard work and dedication to producing professional, detailed toy reviews. So I'd like to take a moment to extend a huge thank you to anyone who has ever watched one of the videos, or left a like, or a comment, or subscribed. An especially big thanks to those who have been watching since it all began in April 2013. Here's a little snippet of audio from my very first review. Hello everyone, and welcome to Victoria's Cantina. Today we're going to be having a look at the Hasbro Star Wars Clone Trooper with Jetpack figure. This guy came out in 2012, however, he was originally released back in 2005 as part of the Revenge of the Sith lineup of deluxe figures. There are a couple of very small differences between the two releases. We'll have a look at those in a moment, but first let's take a look at this guy and see what he has to offer. As you can see, he's your run-of-the-mill Episode 3 Trooper. Not a whole lot to him in the way of battle damage. In fact, he's entirely clean. He does come with his rifle as well as his jetpack, main thing that sets him apart from other Episode 3 Trooper releases. As far as his articulation goes, he has a ball joint at the head, syllables at the shoulders, elbows, hips, knees, and ankles. To activate his jetpack, simply press on the red button on the back of the pack. And he's off to fight Separatist forces in battle. It's definitely kind of funny watching some of my inaugural reviews from 2013. I mean, they've changed so much. But one thing that hasn't changed is my passion and my drive to collect action figures and toys and talk to people about how much I enjoy them and to share them with people. So hopefully that'll continue for some time to come. In February, the annual New York Toy Fair, which famous Star Wars collector Dan Curto refers to as the Super Bowl of toy shows, took place. With it were many new reveals of toys and collectibles from a variety of franchises and companies. In the last episode of Cantina Chatter, I was joined by my friends Jay Jurassic, Ted Brothers, Matt Brando, and Baptiste Couder to discuss new Mattel Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom toy reveals. Here's a listen. So say you go into a toy store and you see the entire Mattel Fallen Kingdom line. What is the one thing or the very first thing that you buy? Baptiste?
The electronic baryonyx.
Ooh, the electronic. That looks really good. I mean, the paint on that one is like a standout.
Exactly.
Jay, what do you think? What's the one thing that you buy? You see all the toys on the shelf.
I would say that one of the T-Rexes. If they have that anatomy set, I think that's the first one I'm getting. I'm very biased when it comes to T-Rex. Anything T-Rex, I'll just, even if it doesn't look that great, when I get home with the T-Rex figure, I'll be like, okay, it's not that great, but it's still a T-Rex. All right, put it on the shelf. But it would have to be probably that anatomy set. That it looks so cool, and I think the T-Rex in that set looks really good too. Like, I don't know. I think that would be the first one I would get out of the whole set. Nice.
Matt, what about you?
You know, I want to say the Carnotaurus, but I'm going to go with the Indoraptor because I am an Indominus whore.
Yes, you are. And Ted, what do you think? What's the one thing that you would buy first?
Well, first off, I wait till my wife isn't looking, take the credit card.
Nice.
I get them all because it's easier to ask for forgiveness than it is for permission. That's the one thing you have to remember. So, I'll probably go for the big T-Rex just because, even if the paint job isn't the best, I enjoy painting stuff. And, I've bought models that are $60, so why not buy one that's a massive T-Rex like that I don't have to put together, but that I can paint and it's big enough to get a lot of detail into it, and I just enjoy that kind of stuff. So definitely the big T-Rex. And if they don't have that, then definitely the Carnotaurus, because I don't have any of those. I'm not fortunate enough to have the rare demon. I'm just here at my shop making the parts for other people. So yeah.
No, Ted, what you say is, honey, it's not for me, it's for the daughter.
The kid. Yeah.
Research purposes.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
it's for you too, babe. It's for work.
Ted, just tell, your wife knows we have our own little segment show.
Yeah.
Tell her it's Jay's birthday's coming, and I have to impress her with a bunch of Jurassic Park stuff.
But you don't like
$1,000 worth of toys?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's for work. Write it off on the taxes.
That's right. Yeah. Right, deductibles, baby. Every year, $1,000. Boom.
Yeah, I'm gonna need you guys' help on that too. I have to make up some lies for these toys.
Okay,
too.
No problem. I got you. Yeah. I got you.
We should talk off air so they don't hear our plan.
Oh, okay.
All right.
My girlfriend doesn't listen to my podcast anyway, so it's fine.
Cool.
My husband doesn't listen to my podcast, watch any of my videos or anything either, so I'm in the clear.
We're all
we're all in the clear then.
My wife doesn't even listen to me, period, so I mean... Let alone my podcast that I'm on.
But Jurassic Park wasn't the only big and highly anticipated reveal from New York Toy Fair. There were also a lot of reveals from Hasbro's Star Wars, Marvel Legends, NECA, Bandai, Diamond Select, and more. I'd like to talk a little bit about some of my favorite reveals from the toy lines that I tend to collect and follow. On Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, I asked you to send me your questions about New York Toy Fair. We'll get to those in just a little bit, but first let me go over some of the highlights from the show. Shortly before Toy Fair began, Hasbro released some new photos exclusively through Entertainment Weekly from the Solo: A Star Wars Story toy line. I don't know why they release these through Entertainment Weekly. My guess is it's strictly about visibility rather than through fan sites, which, obviously we have the most passion for these sorts of collectibles and the new toys. But business is business, I suppose. And we got a look at some of the reveals. I'm just going through some of them here on the website. We have a bunch of the 5-point of articulation figures that are coming out to support the film. It looks like we have some Black Series figures. I'll talk more about those in just a second. But just going through and looking at the different figures, there's going to be a new Force Link 2.0. It's going to be coming with a Han Solo 5POA figure. And it looks like there are going to be a few other basic figures for that line. It looks like Snoke is finally getting a release in the 5POA line. We know that the Vintage Collection version, which was confirmed a while back, is coming, but there's also a 5POA one, and I presume that this is a straight repack from the one that came in that big BB-8 playset from last year. Hasbro also showed us this new Millennium Falcon, and it is a $100 vehicle. It looks like it is the smallest and most scaled back of all the Falcons, even more scaled back than the original vintage Falcon from 1978. So I don't know that this warrants $100. I mean, it doesn't look terrible. It just isn't what we normally expect from the Star Wars line. Like the Han Solo figure looks like he's just laying down in the back of the vehicle. You can't even stand up a figure in this thing. The cockpit only has a spot for one figure to sit. There's only one seat in the front. And for some reason, he's in the co-pilot seat. I don't know why that's the seat they gave the vehicle. But it's interesting. I mean, I definitely wouldn't pay $100 for this. I don't know many collectors that would. But, maybe on clearance, and I hate to say that because, I like to support the line as best as possible, but, this just doesn't live up to $100. As far as other reveals go from Toy Fair, we finally got a look at some of the new Black Series 6-inch action figures that are coming. There are a couple of exclusives. There's the Gamorrean Guard, which looks really incredible. Looks like it has a hinged jaw. It's got soft goods. It looks a lot like the Vintage Collection figure just blown up. And I'm totally cool with that because that's one of the best figures of all time. And it looks really good. It's going to be, it seems like a larger figure, at least a little bit, than some of the other Black Series figures. So I guess that's why Target is selling it as an exclusive. Now, it also looks like they're rounding out the bounty hunters. Of course, we've gotten Boba Fett, we've gotten IG-88, we've gotten Bosk, and it looks like they're finally rounding out the rest of the bounty hunters with 4-LOM, Zuckuss, and Dengar. And that is really cool. I mean, it's really cool that Hasbro knows that as fans, we want to collect the entire little subset of figures. So they're completing that for us. Here's hoping they'll go back and complete other things like Cantina Aliens. We haven't had a new one since Greedo. That was 2013. I think wave 2 of the line. So here's hoping that happens sooner rather than later. I definitely want my Hammerhead. Definitely want my Walrus Man. And other 6-inch figures. There's a Hoth Princess Leia. I don't know what to think about this one. I think that her proportions and the overall aesthetic of the sculpt look really good, but the head, I'm just not feeling it completely yet. That's not to say it looks terrible. I think it actually looks a little bit better than the Bouche Bounty Hunter outfit Leia, but it just doesn't look quite right. I don't know if it's the lighting. I mean, I've looked at the Hasbro promotional picture as well as the ones from Toy Fair, and I don't know. I just kind of feel like the chin looks correct, nose looks correct, but the eyes and the forehead seems a little bit off. I don't know. She just looks a little angry or something. And maybe I'm a little biased because I just got the Hot Toys Hoth Princess Leia, but it just doesn't seem like it lives up to the 40th anniversary Leia, which was exquisite. So hopefully they fix that. Other figures that are coming for this line, it looks like we have Amil and Holdo from The Last Jedi. I think that's awesome. I really wanted this figure to be revealed at Toy Fair. I'm glad that they actually did it. And there is a Clone Commander Wolf. I love the clones. I love the Clone Wars. I'm currently, if you follow me on Twitter and Instagram, rewatching the entire series in chronological order. So I'm especially happy at this point in time to see figures like that make their way into the 6-inch line. Now, of course, we also have Grand Moff Tarkin, who already was previously announced, and he is now coming with the photoreal paint applications, and I gotta hand it to Hasbro for doing that, because that is way cool, and it looks really, really good with them. There's also the Rebel Fleet Trooper, which we knew was coming. No evidence yet that they're going to do a head swap on that, but I really hope that they will, because we can't really have all of them looking identical. There is a 3-pack of astromech droids that's coming. One of them is R2-D2. It looks like it's from after he gets hit by Darth Vader's fire in the TIE Fighter at the very end of A New Hope during the trench run. And there's a droid that looks like R5-D4. It's not R5-D4, but it's got a pretty similar look. And then there's also a green astromech. I apologize that I don't have the names memorized. There's just so many droids in Star Wars. But the green one, I think we got that one before in the 3 3/4 inch line. I could be wrong. It looks similar to one that we may have received already. As far as the other figures go, it looks like most of them are from Solo, a Star Wars story. These figures look pretty good. It's nice that they're doing the photoreal paint on them as well. There's Han Solo, there's Lando Calrissian, there's Kira, there's the Range Trooper. That actually looks really good as well. It's got the fur around its head, and I don't know about the legs. They just look really weird. It's got these really big, like robotic looking legs, or like he's got metal around his legs. Maybe that helps with wading through the snow. Not really sure, but it's an interesting aesthetic, and I can't wait to get that guy in hand to see what he's like. And there's Woody Harrelson's character, Tobias Beckett. He looks really good. I don't know anything about the character, obviously. I have high hopes that, being Woody Harrelson, it's going to be a pretty good performance, but that remains to be seen. And beyond that, there's a look at the Porgs. They're doing the little Porgs 2-pack. I think they retail about $8. So that is pretty cool. I kind of wish that they would have done maybe 2 different 2-packs. That way we get some extra poses. But hey, this is a start for sure. Yeah, so it looks like there's some pretty nice reveals that have been done for the 6-inch Black Series line. I'm pretty excited for what's to come in the line. And I hope that over time, we do get some more of those aliens. The Gamorrean Guard, Zuckuss, Forlom. Good start on, the droids and the aliens. But I really want to see more Cantina aliens. Obviously, I named the channel after the Mos Eisley Cantina. So definitely want to see those filtered into the line at some point. And of course, the thing I was looking forward to the most from Hasbro is the Star Wars, the Vintage Collection toys. And it looks like they have some photos of figures that were already announced. Mostly the repacks coming in waves 1 and 2, such as Rey from Jakku. Really disappointed they didn't retool the figure and give her ungloved hands, because the fact that the figure had gloved hands was kind of a disappointment before, because that's very scene specific. And I just kind of feel like they missed the opportunity to do that. First Order Stormtrooper. I can't really tell if this has the new head of the version from the Walmart exclusive Black Series, the Executioner. It's probably just a repack of the same figure, which I guess should have been expected. There's also the Death Trooper. I think that one's in Wave 2. There's Luke Skywalker from The Last Jedi, and I believe that one's from Wave 2. It's the Jedi Master figure. Poe Dameron, I believe, is coming later. The Hoth Rebel Trooper, I think that's in the first wave. There's Snoke, who is in the first wave. And we have Dr. Aphra, I think she's in the second or third wave. Also from Solo's Star Wars Story, it looks like we're also getting young Han Solo. We are getting the Mimban Stormtrooper. It looks like it's got a really nice helmet sculpt. Definitely better than anything we've gotten in this scale before. In fact, the whole figure looks to be new, as far as I can tell. But that looks really cool. Dr. Aphra looks really awesome. I mean, I wasn't really too familiar with her, but after she won the fan vote last year, I had to pick up that first edition of the comic, Dr. Aphra. So, I mean, she looks really good. I'm really happy with what I'm seeing. I like her outfit. I think it's pretty awesome. So, a lot of cool stuff to be seen from the Vintage Collection. There's also going to be 2 figures, and I believe it's the Mimban Stormtrooper and also the Rey Island Journey that are going to be Walmart exclusives. I hope that that's not the case, because part of the whole thing of the Vintage Collection is to kind of get away, I think, from the Walmart Black Series line. But if they're going to start making figures exclusive to Walmart, I mean, to me, that kind of defeats the purpose, and that just feels a little disappointing. So I hope that those are brought into the main line. I mean, they're going to be hard to get if they're Walmart exclusives. They haven't even listed last year's final wave with Luke Skywalker, the Praetorian Guard, Rose, and the Stormtrooper Executioner. Those have not gone up online on their website. I've been checking. So, I mean, that's kind of already been 5 months. So, yeah, I'm not too hopeful about these if they are indeed exclusive to Walmart. And there also is the Imperial Combat Assault Tank. It used to be called the Hover Tank. I still call it the Hover Tank, even though it doesn't hover. It looks really good. I'm not a huge fan of this particular design. I kind of feel like it looks a little bit more G.I. Joe than it looks Star Wars. But, I'm glad that they're at least doing something like this. A highly detailed, very nicely painted vehicle that is scaled much better than a lot of the recent offerings in the 3 3/4 inch line. I think that this looks really good. And I hope that a lot of people buy it. I mean, I hope that a lot of people support this, so that way we get more vehicles in Vintage Collection. And there is also going to be, of course, the Hover Tank Pilot's going to be offered as a figure in either Wave 2 or 3 of Vintage Collection. Of course, the biggest thing to come out of Toy Fair from Hasbro Star Wars was the Vintage Collection Jabba's Sail Barge. This is a vehicle fans have been asking them to make for decades, and now there's a real shot at having it. The catch is that it isn't going into mass production. It's a HasLab crowdfunding project, so it needs to hit 5,000 backers in order to become a reality. It's $500, which is very expensive, But when you figure that this thing is 4 feet long and over a foot wide and comes with Jabba the Hutt, and it can potentially hold all of your Jabba's Palace aliens and skiff guards, it becomes a very appealing idea. I mean, shipping on this thing is included, and given its size, it's probably pretty expensive for them to ship. It's also the biggest Star Wars vehicle / playset ever designed, and it was created by legendary Kenner and Hasbro designer Mark Boudreau. Also, consider how packed to the gills the sail barge is with sculpted details and chambers and intricate little decorations. The barge campaign was previously only open to American residents, but today Hasbro announced that the barge would also be opened up to Canada as well. It remains to be seen if the campaign itself will be made available anywhere else yet, but the good news is that Hasbro has confirmed that if all 5,000 backers are reached, they will find other ways to offer it internationally. So there's still a chance, if you're not located in the US or Canada, that you still might have a way to get the barge. But first things first, we got to hit those 5,000 backers. Right now it's sitting at 2,200 supporters. If you'd like to see a detailed video analysis of the sail barge, head over to Victoria's Cantina on YouTube. Then, don't forget to back the barge. So Toy Fair also revealed a lot of Hasbro's Marvel Legends figures. This being the 10th anniversary of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they're making a really big push and releasing a bunch of figures from the films, which are really the only ones that I collect when it comes to Marvel Legends. For the most part, I do make exceptions occasionally. But there's a lot of cool stuff. There's a lot of multi-packs, and a lot of these figures, they seem like they would have come out with the original lines for these films. Such as the Mandarin. It kind of seems like maybe something that should have been out for Iron Man 3. I don't know if some of these were planned for those lines and just didn't make it out, so they're releasing them now. Or they're just really trying to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and that's why they're doing them now. It's interesting that we have some like the Iron Man Mark 1, which is a straight repack from the original line, which is very toy-like. It's got like the launching projectiles from its wrist. It's a little bit small. The head is definitely too small. So that is interesting that they are doing a straight repack of that rather than an all-new figure. But, you know, most of these things look good. Scarlet Witch and Vision 2-pack. Scarlet Witch looks really good with their realistic photo print tack on her face. There's also several things that have been revealed in more recent days too, like the Avengers 3-pack with Thor and I guess that's Teenage Groot and Rocket Raccoon. I mean, a lot of this stuff is looking really, really good. I mean, I try to collect as many of the movie figures as I can within reason, or, you know, at the very least, I try and replace some of my existing figures with like the latest and greatest Marvel Legends. That way I just don't accumulate too many of them. But there are so many of them being announced, and it really is kind of overwhelming. But hey, it's really good. If you're a Marvel Legends collector, I mean, this is like probably one of the best times to be into that line. Lots of great stuff coming from Marvel Legends. On Twitter, I also happened to notice some figures from the SH Figuarts Mighty Morphin Power Rangers line. This was a very awesome line that began several years back. And they've done a lot of the different Power Rangers, but the only ones that I really care about are the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, because I did watch those when I was a kid. And, you know, because I never collected the original line, I missed out on them, and they are so expensive on the secondary market these days. It really is quite ridiculous. So it is nice that they are now doing at least 2 figures. They're doing the Bandai Tamashii Nations SH Figuarts Green Ranger Tommy with the human portrait, and then also it looks like an interchangeable head where it's just the masked portrait. And the unmasked version actually looks really good. Of course, it's got the photorealistic printing technology for the face. And they also revealed Jason, the Red Ranger, who's also looking really, really good. It remains to be seen if they're going to do the rest of the Rangers. I definitely hope that they will, because this would be my chance to go back and finally add these to my collection. Of course, at the same time, it was also revealed that Hasbro has taken the rights to Power Rangers from Bandai. I'm not really sure what all it entails. I don't know if it's going to be like 100% of the product, because if you think about it, with Star Wars and Marvel, Figuart still does the 6-inch figures for both brands, even though Hasbro has been doing them for both brands as well. So does Bandai continue doing the Figuarts, or does Hasbro get like 100% of everything Power Rangers? I definitely hope it's the former because, I really like that there is a little competition with the SH Figuarts doing the Star Wars and the Marvel and the DC. I mean, it gives us more options as collectors, so I hope they're able to keep doing the Power Rangers at the very least, especially because I really do want them to finish out this original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers group of figures with the unmasked heads. Another thing that was pretty cool was that NECA showed a diorama backdrop for their Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Last year for San Diego Comic-Con, they released a big box of the Ninja Turtles and had a bunch of the villains in it, Shredder, the Foot Clan, Krang, and I have that set, and I think it's quite magnificent. And they're 7-inch scale, a little bit bigger than I prefer. I kind of prefer the 6-inch scale, but in any case, it is nice that they are offering a backdrop. I don't know the price point yet. I don't know exactly if that's going to go up for pre-order or how it's going to work, or if it is going to be a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive. But it looks like that is definitely coming. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out, because I think dioramas are oftentimes, especially at this day and age, a component that's very overlooked. And I know that I love dioramas and being able to build little scenes from films and TV shows. So it is nice that they are doing something like that. If you watch Victoria's Cantina, then you know that I've recently gone into the Bandai movie realization line for the Star Wars figures. They do these 7-inch scale Japanese and samurai influenced interpretations of Star Wars characters. First one I picked up was the Sohei Darth Maul, which I thought was really incredible. You can watch my review. I loved it. And I liked it so much, in fact, I decided to buy more of them. And now I have the very first Darth Vader that they did. And it looks like they're doing some more of them. They have a Crimson Guard that is actually out already. Shadow Stormtrooper that's out already. But it also looks like they have concept art for Queen Amidala, which would be the first female into this line. And I think she looks pretty amazing. There's going to be zero hesitation. If that actually comes out, I'm buying that. There's like a Gamorrean Guard art for it. And that looks pretty incredible too. I wouldn't have thought that they would have approached Gamorrean Guard. There's artwork for IG-88. And that looks pretty cool too. And we know that they're also doing Kylo Ren, which I think looks pretty incredible. I might have to get that one as well. So I'm really glad to see that they're continuing to expand that line. Of course, they also do Marvel interpretations as well for the movie realization line. But obviously, I just focus on the Star Wars ones. But I am glad to see that they're branching it out and expanding it and continuing to develop it. So hopefully it'll keep going for a whiles to come. I just hope that they re-release that Boba Fett, because it's so expensive on the secondary market. Okay, so perhaps after the Jurassic World merchandise and the sail barge, I think the coolest thing that I saw from Toy Fair was that Diamond Select is doing these 7-inch scale The Real Ghostbusters action figures based off of the Real Ghostbusters television cartoon. That was one of, if not the first cartoon that I used to watch as a kid on television. I grew up with that in the late 80s. It was huge for me into the early 90s. I think by then I had actually gone on to Ninja Turtles and onto Batman and some other things. But Ghostbusters was very, very meaningful to me as a kid. I had a bunch of the Kenner, the Real Ghostbusters toys. And this made me especially happy to see. Now, I have never bought the Diamond Select Ghostbusters before. I do have some of the Mattel Ghostbusters figures that they did several years back. And I'm really happy with those. So for that reason, I never really got into the Diamond Select versions. But for the Real Ghostbusters, these just look incredible. I'm going to have to make an exception. I'm going to have to add these to my collection. They're also doing a Slimer pack. It looks like it has 3 different versions of Slimer in it, or at least one Slimer with maybe 2 interchangeable heads. We'll have to see how it turns out. And then they're also doing the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, which I mean, that one you don't really have to work too hard to sell me on because I love the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. It's my favorite ghost from Ghostbusters. So these really excite me. They really bring out the kid in me. And as soon as I saw these, I had to send pictures to my mother and show her because, I mean, lots of memories there. And definitely going to buy these as soon as I'm able to. Alright, so on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, I asked you guys to send in your own audio, letting me know what your thoughts were on the new reveals from New York Toy Fair. And the first one here comes from Albert, who sent in the following message.
Hi Victoria, I wanted to share my thoughts on Toy Fair, and I was really impressed to start off with the Mattel Jurassic World toys. So exciting to see a thrash and throw T-Rex like the Thrasher from The Lost World. I think that head sculpt is the best in the entire franchise toy line. I really enjoyed seeing the variety of dinosaurs to scale with the human figures and the vehicles, and that Mosasaurus with the real feel skin. It's promising, and I hope to see an Apatosaurus or a Brachiosaurus in the future to follow through with that. I was also, taken aback by the sail barge from Star Wars Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. That katana, while expensive, is like the swan song of Mark Boudreau, who was the designer of all the Falcons before in the Hasbro and Kenner lines. It's really exciting, even though it looks like an empty hunk of plastic. It's sort of like a tribute to all the fan requests over the years for the vintage collection to come back, for the vehicles to return, the high quality details. It's nice to see it happen, and I hope it does triumph in the end. The Kickstarter-like HasLab project. To finish off my thoughts, I really enjoyed the Pale Man reveal from NECA. It now comes with a throne, and it looks as terrifying as I remember seeing it in the movie from Pan's Labyrinth. And finally, Mezco's King Kong. The two versions they have available are super articulated, highly detailed versions of King Kong. And, it's great because their character hasn't had many action figures officially licensed from comics or movies over the years, as much as, say, Godzilla. So, cool to see him in the spotlight. All right. And those are my thoughts.
Albert, I totally agree with you. I mean, the Jurassic Park stuff is extremely exciting, especially in light of how awful the Hasbro Jurassic World stuff was. It looks like Mattel's doing an excellent job with these initial figures and dinosaurs. I mean, they're doing a lot. They're doing them to scale. I know we already discussed it in the previous episode, but I just can't get over how awesome these look. And it's going to be really, really cool to see these on shelves and to start getting back into Jurassic Park, Jurassic World dinosaurs. I also hope that the sail barge is successful. Like I said, it's sitting at about 2,200 right now, and if they continue to open it up to more countries, hopefully that number would boost up, but it remains to be seen exactly how they're going to handle that. It sounds like everybody that wants one, even if you're international, might have a chance to get it at some point, but first things first, like I said, we got to get it to 5,000, so going back the barge, it's really exciting, and it'll certainly be a centerpiece to any Star Wars action figure collection. The next message comes from Gabriel, who says,
"What's the last thing I want to say in this podcast? Well, this is going to be the second time, but I want to say Infinity Warfare, or like not as good as Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, which is going to be the best movie 2018. Yeah, 2018. Yeah. So see you next time. Bye."
I'm really excited about Avengers. I mean, I follow all the Marvel films, and I really greatly enjoy them. Whenever one comes out, I always try and go see it. And I'm really excited for the film. There's a lot of Marvel Legends, like I said, that are looking really good. But you know what? I gotta agree. Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom this year is my most looked forward to film. Even though there's a Star Wars film coming out, it's not a Star Wars film that I, in particular, was super excited about. I am feeling a little more comfortable with it and a little more excited for it recently with the trailers and everything, but Fallen Kingdom for me is like the big movie of 2018. I'm really excited for that, so especially with all the toys, that's going to help augment its release very, very nicely. Okay, so I also asked you, the listeners, to send in your questions via social media. From Facebook, John says, most impressive were the new Jurassic World products. Another thing is that Hasbro started a crowdfund. Question, do you think that Hasbro should have started smaller on the crowdfund, meaning let's just say a Death Star playset or a Black Series 6-inch scale Slave 1 for about $250? Do I think that the barge is worth $499? A Death Star probably would have been even bigger and more expensive than the sail barge, so I don't think they should have gone bigger. I don't necessarily also think they should have gone smaller. I'm glad that they're being ambitious with this. That'll give them a more realistic interpretation of how something like this actually resonates with fans and how it actually pans out. If they would have gone with something that was like $250, it might have attracted a little bit more of potential buyers, but at the same time, I am glad that they're trying to go for a little bit bigger of a piece of the pie. So I think $500, it is ambitious. It is a big payment for something, for a toy, but I think that this is going to determine what they do in the future. If it does not succeed, if it doesn't get the 5,000 backers, I don't foresee them offering another HasLab project that costs $500 or more. They'll probably go smaller the next time around. But at the same time, if it is successful, then I definitely think that the next one will be an even more expensive project potentially. So it'll be interesting to see how this pans out. Obviously, I say back the barge, go and support it, make this happen. A lot of fans want to see it happen. A lot of people have been asking for it for a long time, and we might not get another shot at this, so let's make this count. On Twitter, Hack Heaven says, hello, do you think Hasbro will go back and redo earlier 6-inch The Black Series figures using the new face printing technology? The sculpts have always been there, and custom repaints confirm that to be true. I really hope that they do. I really hope that they go back. There are a lot of candidates that I think would be prime for receiving the photorealistic paint. And among those, the ones that stick out in my mind, I would say Jin Urso. I don't think they're going to bring her back. She was too big of a peg warmer. She came out way too many times, more than she should have. So they might never release that figure again. But I think that would be a prime one to do their realistic paint tech on because she looked pretty abysmal, if I'm honest. Poe Dameron from the Last Jedi line, that one was better than the Force Awakens ones, but it's too bad that that one missed the realistic photo print technology because I think that would have looked so much better if it received those paint techniques. A New Hope Luke Skywalker, I think, would have been a good one as well. Mostly the human figures, for obvious reasons. Those are always the trickiest to dial in terms of paint, but I do agree. The sculpts are definitely there. And I do imagine that Hasbro will release some of those older figures in this line. In fact, they told me as much at San Diego Comic-Con last year in my conversation with them. They said they were looking at doing a greatest hits line, possibly. I'm not sure they're still thinking about that, but there are definitely some figures that should be offered once again. And if they do release them, definitely do the face printing tech. It would make collectors that already own these figures buy them again, most likely. And it'll also make newer collectors who might not have them happy as well because they'll have more definitive versions of those figures. Also from Twitter, Classic Action Figures asks, what are your top 3 6-inch Black Series figures that you would like to see get made? Off the top of my head, I don't have a list right now. But off the top of my head, the top 3 that I would like to get made. I would say Ayla Secura. She's my favorite of the prequel Jedi, not counting the main characters, of course, not counting Ahsoka. I love Ayla Secura. She was awesome in the Clone Wars. Definitely would like to see her made. I would also like to see Count Dooku / Darth Tyrannus because he is a main villain from the films. He probably even had more screen time than Darth Maul did, but we still don't have a figure in 6-inch form of Count Dooku. SH Figure Arts has got one coming at some point, hopefully. At least they revealed that they have made one. I don't know when it'll be put into production, but I really want to see Hasbro tackle that character as well. And the third one, I'm kind of torn between General Grievous and Momo Nadon. I'm going to go with Momo Nadon because, Cantina aliens have always been my favorite. And like I said earlier, we haven't really gotten too many Cantina aliens in the 6-inch line. In fact, we've only gotten one. So definitely do Hammerhead. Those would be my top three: Ayla Secura, Count Dooku, and Momonadon. Make it happen, Hasbro. From Instagram, Catman568 asks, what is one figure you desperately want to see in Black Series and Vintage Collection form? So a figure that would appear in both lines. So going back to the ones I just mentioned, I would say Hammerhead, because we have gotten a wonderful Hammerhead with a beautiful sculpt from the 2006 The Saga Collection line. It's one of my favorite figures in my collection. Aesthetically, I don't really see how they could do a better looking Hammerhead figure, but unfortunately he is not super articulated. And I definitely want to see him in 6-inch, and I definitely want to see Hasbro redo him in the Vintage Collection. We haven't gotten a modern Vintage Collection card back for Hammerhead, so I think this would be a good candidate to put into the line. The 101 Jenko says, I am really excited for the Vintage Collection Snoke and the Black Series Hot Leia and the Forces of Destiny Padme doll. Yeah, I'm really excited for Snoke in this 3 3/4 inch line. He's super articulated. He's looking really good. I kind of feel like the eyes maybe look a little bit like they need tweaking, but I'm really excited that he's being released. As I mentioned about Black Series, Hoth Leia, I don't think she's quite there yet. I think the head needs a little bit of tweaking. I don't know if it's a paint issue or a sculpt issue. I just don't know yet. But I am excited for her nonetheless. It's a new Leia figure in the 6-inch line. That always gets me excited. Forces of Destiny Padme looks quite good. I haven't really been following this line too closely. At least I haven't been collecting it too closely. I only have one of the Rey figures. But I am glad that they're doing a Padme figure in some capacity, because it has been a really long time. Supersaurus Rex says, I'm a weirdo, so for me Super 7 totally stole the show with the reveals. The Great Garlu. My question is, what do you think about Hasbro taking on Power Rangers, increasing their presence in the toy aisles even more? So this is something that does come up from time to time. Hasbro is already doing Star Wars. They're doing Marvel. And, they're doing a bunch of other stuff too. But now they're going to have Power Rangers. I hope that it doesn't split their resources too thin, because, they're already competing with themselves in a lot of ways. Personally, I like to see toys on the shelves from different companies. If Bandai isn't doing Power Rangers on the toy aisle at your Walmarts, at your Targets, at your Toys R Us's, that are going to remain after all these stores close, what is Bandai going to do? Off the top of my head, what else does Bandai do outside of the Power Rangers? I'm sure they do other things. I just can't think of them off the top of my head. I think Power Rangers was probably like their biggest line. So that is a little unfortunate. I don't know exactly why Hasbro got the rights to the line. Maybe Bandai was just tired of doing it. I really don't know. I don't know what happened behind the scenes, but I just hope that Hasbro does a good job. I don't really collect the line. I've only bought some of the legacy figures that they've done for Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. I have the Thunder Megazord. I have the Power Morpher. But outside of that, I really don't have anything else. So I just hope they do a good job. Hopefully they don't do 6.5-inch scale figures like Bandai was doing. Hopefully they come back to 6-inch. And if they do Mighty Morphin Power Rangers in 6-inch form that are at the same quality as Marvel Legends, I think I would definitely pick those up. Boba Hicks says, I was very excited about the NECA toy reveals. I'm a little worried that it will be difficult to pick up the store-exclusive Black Series figures like Zuckuss and the Gamorrean Guard here in Ireland without having to pay a small fortune for them online. My question, have you pre-ordered any of the products revealed yet? So you know what? I definitely agree with you. I think that the exclusives might be a little bit difficult, but we have seen that with some of these exclusives, Hasbro has been able to offer them to retailers internationally. I think it was Argos or Asda, I forget which retailer it was, in Europe that did carry the Black Series 3 3/4-inch line, or at least some of the line. So hopefully they can work something out. I'm not too happy about Gamorrean Guard being a Target exclusive or Zuckuss being a Toys R Us exclusive here in the US. The Gamorrean Guard probably won't be hard to find because of all the big box retailers. Target definitely handles their exclusives the best. They stock them on the sale date for the most part. They get them early. You don't have to worry about hunting them too much. They put them on the website in a timely fashion. So I'm not really too worried about the Gamorrean Guard. That'll give me a chance to get like 4 of them, or however many I get. Zuckuss might be a little more difficult, especially with all the Toys R Us stores closing. I know I'm definitely losing at least 1 store here in the San Diego area, but Toys R Us generally also does a good job of throwing things online pretty early, so I definitely hope that they make these available in Ireland. Of course, there's always secondary routes to go. There's Amazon. You can also do eBay, but sometimes those routes can be a little more expensive, so I definitely hope that they find a way to make those happen. My suggestion would be to just let Hasbro know online, or send them those emails and say, hey, I need these in my collection, because Zuckuss, Gamorrean Guard, we definitely want to get those in the collection. I would say petition them as best you can, and hopefully they find some way to get them out to everybody. As far as have I pre-ordered any of the new products revealed yet, I don't think that there's anything up for pre-order yet as far as these new toys go. That I'm after. I know the real Ghostbusters aren't up yet. The Jurassic World stuff isn't up for pre-order. Black Series Vintage Collection. None of those are up for pre-order quite yet. I do anticipate that we will be seeing those put up pretty soon here, but as of this recording, those have not gone up yet. As soon as they do, most likely I would definitely be interested in pre-ordering some of these awesome reveals. The Jurassic Man asks, would you like a Black Series Battle Droid / Super Battle Droid? Yeah, absolutely. The Black Series has definitely been lacking in prequel characters, and that's why with the other question asking what my top 3 were, I said Ayla Secura and Count Dooku, because not only are those kind of essential in my opinion, but they're also prequel characters, and I definitely think that there is a place for a super battle droid or a battle droid. I know SH Figure Arts has a really awesome battle droid in 2 different colors, and it looks like they're also coming out with a super battle droid, possibly at some point. But I would definitely like to see those in the Black Series 6-inch line as well. Easton K67 asks, what line are you most excited about? Definitely the Jurassic Park, Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom toys. I mean, I love Star Wars. Star Wars is the bread and butter of my collection. I've said that multiple times before. But, there's just something surrounding the Mattel Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom toys. Considering how bad the Hasbro ones were, these definitely in a way go back to the awesome toys that Kenner did back in the 90s, the toys that I grew up with. And even though they might not be to the exact same level of quality in a lot of ways, they definitely harken back to some of the qualities and some of the features of those classic toys. So for me this year, it's definitely going to be all about the Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom stuff. Not that I'm going to ignore the other lines that we're talking about tonight, but I'm most looking forward to the Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom toys. No doubt about it. Supersaurus Rex says, hypothetically, if things don't go well with Hasbro and collectors and retailers over the next couple of years, and Disney / Lucasfilm decides to give the Star Wars license to another company, who would you like to see it go to? Well, let me answer the first part of your question. First of all, I really don't want to see Hasbro lose the license. And it's not because I don't think that other companies could do a really good job. Obviously, Mattel is showing that they can do an awesome job with Jurassic Park. But if another company were to take up the license, they would start with figure number 1, meaning every figure that's ever been released from Kenner and from Hasbro would be up for a remake. They would basically go back to the beginning and start remaking figures. And I'm not saying that they would redo all of the figures Hasbro did, because that's pretty unlikely. There's thousands of them. But they would go back and essentially create a brand new line to collect. And I'm not sure that I would do that. I mean, I have a bunch of figures. I mean, I really couldn't tell you how many 3 3/4-inch Star Wars figures I have in the collection. And for 6-inch Black Series 2, I have pretty much the whole line. So if another company was to suddenly pick them up and start redoing them from scratch, that would be like a whole different ball game, not necessarily one I'd want to play in. So I definitely hope that Hasbro keeps it. I hope that they continue to develop it and continue doing things that the fans want. Vintage collection is a good step back in the right direction. And there's a lot of potential there. Obviously, they're trying to do the sail barge. I have a lot of respect for that. It's very ambitious. And I just hope that they are able to keep the line as long as they can continue doing justice to it, continue improving things, because things just haven't been quite as good on the 3 3/4-inch front as they were. 5 years ago. So let's just hope they continue doing the great stuff that they seem to be doing. The second part of your question asks, what can Hasbro and other toy companies do to get kids excited about action figures again? Based on the trends, it seems kids favor videos and smartphone games over physical toys. That's a really good question. And I think that one of the things they've been doing with Force Link is trying to integrate these features so that they are more appealing to kids. I mean, the Force Link, I think, is better than the little garden tools they were doing for The Force Awakens. It's better than the launching missiles they were doing for Rogue One. I don't mind the Force Link at all. I just kind of wish that some of the voice actors were the film actors instead of whoever random person it is doing these voices. But I think that's a good thing. I don't really know what else they could do other than maybe take something like what Disney Infinities has done and make them interact somehow with your video games. If that got more kids to collect 5POA Star Wars figures, maybe that would be a good step for them. I mean, as long as they don't do something like that in the vintage collection, I'd be okay with something like that. But beyond that, I mean, it's really hard to say. I've worked with a lot of kids, and I know that they don't really play with toys the way that they used to back in the 80s, back in the 90s. Now it's all about YouTube and playing on tablets. And you know what? I hope that Hasbro does find a way to engage more kids back into the line, because a lot of us that are collecting these toys aren't going to be collecting them forever. And Hasbro needs that new blood, those younger kids to come in and to buy these things up. Otherwise, the line could disappear at some point, quite honestly. The third part of your question asks, I know you're a big fan of Jurassic Park, so what's your take on the fact that the dinosaurs depiction in the current films are no longer as scientifically accurate as they once were, such as feathers? Would the dinosaurs be more realistic based on current scientific consensus, or should they remain as Hollywood imagined them? Thanks. Really enjoy your podcast. Well, thank you. I'm glad that you're enjoying the podcast. It's definitely a joy to produce. So this is interesting. Now, going back to the first Jurassic Park novel, Henry Wu tells John Hammond that a few liberties were taken with the dinosaurs in order to make them conform to what the human perspective of dinosaurs should be. Thinking back, I believe that I recall some of the dinosaurs were slowed down a little bit. Maybe not as quick as they would have been back during the days of the dinosaurs. And then in Jurassic World, of course, Dr. Wu tells Masrani that if their genetic makeups were 100% pure, that some of them would be a lot different physically. So some liberties were taken there as well. So I think it's been quite clear all along that some of these dinosaurs don't look exactly as they're supposed to look. I'm not sure specifically within the film canon which dinosaurs that would be referring to. Maybe Dilophosaurus being a spitter, maybe the T-Rex lacking feathers, or the raptors lacking wings. I really couldn't say, but what I do know is that I hope that they keep to the canon. I mean, no matter what happens with the story, I hope that they keep to the canon. So if T-Rex is supposed to look like that within the film universe, then keep it like that. If Velociraptor never had feathers in the film universe, keep it like that. That doesn't mean I wouldn't mind seeing other companies outside of InGen, outside of Mizrahi, doing more realistic dinosaurs on their own, maybe feathered dinosaurs or less reptilian type dinosaurs. But for the most part, I'd rather they keep to the canon. So great questions. Thanks for sending those in. Ebayan Jerome asks, how do you fix Black Series action figure lightsabers, particularly Ben Kenobi? So I know that you sent me a message on Instagram and it said that you snapped the peg that goes from the lightsaber blade into the hilt. This is for the 6-inch Black Series Ben Kenobi. Honestly, I don't have an answer for you. I know that this did happen to me back in the early 2000s with a few figures. I remember my 2002 Kit Fisto did this, and I think maybe even Pablo Gil or some of my other figures around that time did that as well. The blades have a little peg that goes into the lightsaber hilt, and they snapped. All I was able to do really was super glue them. Obviously, I didn't have a removable bladed lightsaber anymore for those figures, but that was my solution. So if anybody listening has any solutions, definitely write in on social media and let us know. And finally, CT1267 asks, would you like to see Build-A-Droid return? Well, Build-A-Droid was supposed to return in Legacy Collection in 2013. And that was before Disney took over Lucasfilm and basically changed all of Hasbro's plans for the Star Wars toy line. So they were going to rest the Vintage Collection and bring back Legacy Collection with Build-A-Droid. And if you recall, they actually did release an Amazon exclusive wave of what that line would have been like. It had some really nice figures that were every bit as good in terms of quality as the Vintage Collection, but with the added benefit of a Build-A-Droid part. I mean, I love that. The difference with that and Vintage Collection is that obviously you get the Build-A-Droid part, you get something extra, and that gives you the opportunity to build a whole new character, a whole new droid. With Vintage Collection, the trade-off is that we're getting the vintage style packaging that fans have been asking for a long time. So, assuming that Hasbro puts Vintage Collection back into hibernation after the next couple of years, I would hope that they definitely bring back Build-A-Droid. Not at this time. I think that Vintage Collection has been really highly anticipated. They need to give that its time in the sun and let it do its thing. Let it be adored. Let it be bought by fans and collectors. And let it be supported before they bring out another line like Legacy Collection with Build-A-Droid figures. I definitely want to see that happen again in the future. But for now, I am totally content with the Vintage Collection returning. Okay, so there have been so many reveals from New York Toy Fair 2018. There's a lot of good stuff on the horizon, as it seems like every single year. The current year is going to be more expensive than the previous. I mean, it's just incredibly crazy. All the stuff coming from Mattel and the Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom line, all the stuff with Hasbro, you got the 5POA line, you got the Vintage Collection, you've got 6-inch Black Series, you got the Sail Barge, which again, back the barge. You've got an insurmountable number of Marvel Legends that are coming. It is just overwhelming, and that's not even counting the import companies like Bandai, Medicom Mayfax, Lego, Funko, Hot Toys. I mean, it's just absolutely overwhelming. There is so much, and I don't think it's possible for any one person to collect it all. And it's just getting crazy. The more things that come out, I mean, the more things I want, obviously, but then I also kind of feel like sometimes I need to take a step back and say, hey, I've been collecting this line already for this amount of time. I need to stay focused on this and, just kind of forego some of those new things. It's really, really hard. And, I never like to commit to any particular decision because I do change my mind often when it comes to toys and collecting. But you know what? The good thing is that we have options. There's more competition with all these companies producing all this awesome product. And there's going to be a lot of stuff that I'm going to be able to do reviews of pretty soon. So I'm really excited about all of it. And I say, bring it on. That'll do it for episode 21 of the Cantina Chatter Podcast. Once again, I'd like to thank everyone who sent in their comments and questions regarding New York Toy Fair 2018. If you enjoyed the show, please be sure to leave a 5-star review on iTunes or a positive review wherever you are streaming or downloading the podcast from. It really does make a difference. Be sure to subscribe to Victoria's Cantina on YouTube and follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thanks for listening to the Cantina Chatter Podcast. Until next time, bye-bye.